Hello there, beautiful people. I'm Tracy Rigdon, and this is the Contrast Project. I have with me today Mr. Stephen Dare.
Hello, Tracy. How are you doing?
Good, Stephen. Glad to have you back.
Thank you very much. This is actually a fun place.
we love it. It's just a lot of fun. Listen, I've noticed something you've been really passionate about on social media lately, and I know, privately, of course, you've really done a lot of research. I can tell from what I've read. The Mars exploration and our space program, the advancement in technology.
Well, it's actually, it's kind of mind-blowing.
It is.
I think the thing that kind of caught my attention, especially over this past year, is that, if you're like, I think you and I were probably technically around for the moon landing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then 50 years of nothing.
Right.
Except, there was the Challenger, a couple of movies. Apparently, James Bond went to space with it. There was an explosion, and then that was it.
Right.
And then you hear about a probe, and we landed on Mars. And so I started just kind of looking at where we are with the Mars thing, mainly because of the Mars colonization talk. And it turns out, Tracy, we are so much further ahead than people realize. Like, I got into it thinking, I would find out, we've done this on Mars. And it turns out we have detailed mapping of more than 50 separate worlds within our solar system. We haven't been just sitting around. The technology, and more important, the commercial interests have moved forward stellarly. So it's not just NASA anymore either. It's not just Elon Musk with SpaceX. It's the EU. It's Russia. It's Saudi Arabia. Do you know right now we're on Mars with two different probes mapping the surface? Perseverance got there one day after China got into orbit.
Right.
Which got there one day after the United Arab Emirates got into orbit. So you have three countries right now, and about to be joined by a fourth, that are orbiting that globe, with China talking about staking a claim on the actual surface of Mars. And in the asteroid belt, we've landed. We've been out there, we've mapped, we've surveyed, we have place names, there's geography. Elon Musk is providing the booster rockets later on this year for a trip to an asteroid called Psyche.
That's the one that's metal, right?
It is made of pure metal.
Precious metals, too, from what they say.
Yeah, gold, platinum, iron, and nickel. But the value of the mining possibilities on that asteroid are $17 quintillion, which is 17,000 times the entire gross domestic product of planet Earth, all countries combined.
Wow.
And you have 17 universities and 2 private companies that will own the mining rights to that. So we're on the brink of this thing that's happening with commercial company after commercial company jockeying to get in position to be able to exploit natural resources off-world. We have talk right now, like we're going back to the moon this year with Project Artemis for a permanent human-occupied colonization on the moon.
Right.
After 2022, there will never not be human beings on the moon. And the more you get into it, the more you realize stuff that you probably thought and that I thought was 30 years away.
Right.
All that stuff happened 2 years ago.
Right.
So we've been to Venus.
Sure.
We've mapped portions of Venus. We're mapping the moons of Saturn. We just got detailed geographical maps for the first time from Pluto. And 30 years ago, Pluto was 256 dots on a graphic. And we didn't have any better resolution than that. Now we can see everything larger than 5 meters. So it's incredibly mapped out. So yeah, it's exciting. There's nothing like this in the history of history since the Europeans decided that they could make a lot of money by exploiting the resources of the rest of the known world, which was 5 times larger than Europe.
Right.
like this is going to be the greatest change in history, in the history of history. And it's not 100 years from now, it's 10 years from now.
Right, right. Well, like you were saying, you know, when we think back, you know, if we were around during the first landing on the moon, I remember it being at my house anyway, in black and white, of course, that my dad woke up my sister and I to come watch it on the TV. Mm-hmm. It was that big of a deal, and he was so excited. He was glued to the TV, and now kids growing up will be able to see what you've been talking about, all this exploration going on in space, and the digital imagery that we're seeing, not only the mapping, but the digital imagery is just amazing. The
Tracy,
technology advancement.
You can go right now to NASA's website.
Yes.
And you can see live images from Mars, from 2 rovers, and now they have a drone helicopter, right? And you can watch live as they drive around, sample, and start surveying the property.
Wow.
You can see with a day delay, there is a permanent probe around Jupiter called Juno that is taking unbelievable imagery of Jupiter and the moons that are there. And like, there's a really good chance that at least 2 of the moons of Jupiter have life, because they are water worlds, and we've discovered vast oceans. We just discovered that Mars, all of the water that used to be there, it didn't dissipate. It just simply sank under the ground. So they have discovered vast oceans over the past 2 months underneath the surface of Mars.
Like aquifers.
Yeah, like giant aquifers, which means that it is possible to sustain life there.
Sure.
So the economy, the economics, even the way that we structure our like laws will have to change. And the new wealth won't just be rail, sea, trucking, and planes. The new wealth will be vertical. It'll come off-world, it'll be processed off-world, and will come down and back to the surface. And if you can imagine, if we don't start paying attention to this, the wealth inequities, what do you say to a guy who has $2 quadrillion, not $1 trillion? And how can anybody compete if that is not handled from the beginning? And I think you can look to what happened with the Europeans when they decided to colonize South America, North America, and the rest of the continents. The wealth inequities. What did the Aztecs, what were their chances against 500 European guys with muskets?
Sure.
So we're there again.
Yeah, the implications, like you say, it could be mind-boggling. Probably not in our lifetime.
In our lifetime,
it could, and it could
It's
be.
not
You're
occurred.
right. You're right. Of course, I'm like 61, so I'm closer to
in
the
your
end.
lifetime. In your lifetime, Tracy.
Oh yeah, and again, the inequities in wealth, like you say, you'll have these just mega rich countries, organizations, individuals that will be investing a great deal of their time and money into getting more money from other planets. And like you say, the people that are here on Earth, it's likely to decline very quickly, because, we were talking about, like James Bond, went into space and everything. And that's what we saw when we were growing up, the science fiction part of it, starting colonies, like you say, on the moon. And we're going to have that. We're going to have it, like, definitely within our lifetime.
In 8 months.
Yeah.
There's going to be a permanent colony on the moon.
Yeah.
And dude, like, the thing about how close it is that, like, it is a year, 2 year. We're this month, one of our probes came back from an asteroid called Bennu. And Bennu is about 1 mile wide, and it is primarily composed only of gold and platinum.
Wow.
And it's one of those things that's easily ferried back to Earth. And, if you can imagine what the New World seemed like to a person from Liverpool in 1500, 1600, right? And you may not remember this about American history, but our states were all corporations. You know, the South Sea Company, the West India Company, the East India Company. Those were all chartered corporations that came to the United States and started a mercantile colony. It was a business concern.
Sure.
In fact, our word governor comes from the corporate term for a governor of the corporation. And the idea of one man, one vote,
Right.
that comes from corporate law. You own one share, you get one vote in how the company goes. So, like, our country was founded on a commercial expansion into natural resources from Europe. And you're seeing that right now. People are defining out the laws, hammering an enormous amount of time, figuring out what are the ground rules, all of which I think are going to be broken as we're going into space over this next 5 to 10 years.
Well, certainly, like I say, I mean, greed is definitely going to be in there. Absolutely, absolutely. Like you say, with these gold and platinum asteroids and the Psyche that's got all those precious metals, and it's huge, and they're already like everybody's radars are going up. You know, I mean, it's a natural resource that's worth amazing amounts of money.
And here we are in Jacksonville. You know, we have a spaceport.
Yes.
And that guy, you know, people have ignored that guy for 15 years, the locals. He had to go around the locals, basically, in order to get it declared a spaceport. And that is like a portion of the of that port is qualified to lift off and achieve escape velocity. So we have a spaceport here. And like typical Jacksonville, we will ignore the shit out of it until Savannah gets all of the cargo back, right?
Right. So, and the amount of property out there, like you say, you know, everybody's been ignoring the guy forever and ever and ever. It is a good place, and what an amazing thing to see. Like you say, being able to reach escape velocity, you know, we could have liftoffs right here in Jacksonville.
Right. Florida's great for it.
Oh, yeah.
People laughed at Imeson when he established the first airport here in Jacksonville. And so over there off of Imeson.
I remember it well.
Yeah. But
I went there when it was open as a kid.
Turns out airports are useful for cargo.
Yeah.
Turns out airports are a source of wealth.
Sure.
And it's the same thing that's happening. You know, Elon Musk has established one of his primary places. It's in Texas, right? He's transformed that town. It was a sleepy little place. Now it is kind of a hub of some of the brightest thinkers and smartest people in the United States. And, you know, here in Florida, we've got all of those Navy engineers, all of the people from the Space Coast. We have everything that we need in order to compete. And I know this all sounds like kind of stuff that's far away and maybe science fiction-y, but that's the alluring amazingness of this. It's not only scientifically exciting, it is much closer in time than you realize. And we need to be thinking about this.
Sure.
And also, you know, as a human being, you also need to like soak in where we are. Just this tiny little bug species, you know, on this little planet.
Yeah.
And literally gazing across infinity with the possibility of becoming part of that.
Right. And with the spaceport, like you say, coming to Jacksonville, Jacksonville alone, not only the economic impact, but again, people in our area being able to touch the future.
Yes. Yeah.
Right here.
Probably most people don't realize that we have a spaceport, that you can go to it, you can go visit. It's over at Cecil Field. It's like in the west side, so there's that. But you can get there.
Sure.
You know, with like, if you have an axe in the back, and I guess the kids are all using the AR-15s now.
Yeah.
But you can get there.
You
and
can.
You should go out and check it out.
Yeah, it's an amazing place out there. I went out there to the memorial, the military veterans memorial that they put out there. Very nice, and the chapel that they have out there, and you can drive around freely. And like you say, you can drive right by the new spaceport and see it.
Well, you know, that's the thing about the amazing, is it always comes across as mundane. Like, you know, who knows what's really going on at Langley? You drive by the building, it's just glass and steel, right? What's happening inside of it is the ghost of something larger. And the ghost of something infinite is here, and you can go touch it. Chain link fence and West Side notwithstanding.
Right. Well, Stephen, I thank you so much for joining us today, putting up with us.
Oh, what a pleasure. I love this place. I love you guys.
You're welcome to come in anytime, and we hope we can get you back in the third season, too.
Oh, thank you, man. I'd love to.
We'll put you on the calendar.